The betrayal that burned everything. Welcome to Heart's Reckoning. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories. When love turned to ashes. The perfect illusion. Marcus Chin stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his downtown office, watching the city lights flicker like stars beneath him. At 35, he had built an empire from nothing. Chin Industries was worth millions, and everyone respected his name. But none of it meant anything compared to what waited for him at home. Elena. His wife of 10 years. The woman who had stood by him when he had nothing but dreams and determination. She had believed in him when no one else did, worked 2 jobs to support them while he built his first startup, celebrated every small victory like it was the greatest achievement in the world. Tonight was their anniversary. Marcus had planned everything perfectly. Reservations at the restaurant where he had proposed, a diamond necklace that cost more than their first apartment, and tickets to Paris, the trip they had always dreamed about but could never afford. He smiled, checking his watch. 6 o'clock. He would leave early today, surprise her with flowers, maybe even cook dinner together like they used to do in those early, struggling years. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant, Mr. Chen, the files you requested are on your desk. Also, you have a package marked personal and urgent. Marcus frowned. He wasn't expecting anything. Curious, he walked to his desk and found a plain brown envelope with no return address. Something about it made his stomach twist. Inside was a USB drive and a single note, "You deserve to know the truth. A friend." The unraveling. Marcus's hands trembled as he inserted the drive into his laptop. Part of him wanted to throw it away, pretend he never received it. But he couldn't. Something dark whispered in his mind, telling him his perfect life was about to shatter. The screen filled with photographs. Timestamped. Dated. Locations marked. His breath caught in his throat. Elena. His Elena. In the arms of another man. Kissing him. Laughing with him. Entering hotel rooms with him. But it wasn't just any man. It was David Park. His best friend since college. His business partner. The man who stood beside Marcus at his wedding as best man. The godfather to the child they had hoped to have someday. The timestamps went back 18 months. 18 months of lies. 18 months of betrayal while Marcus worked endless hours to build a future for them. There were text messages too. Hundreds of them. Elena, I can't wait to finally be free of him. He's so blind, David. So pathetically devoted. David, soon, love. Once the merger goes through, we'll have everything. His company, his money, and each other. Elena, he actually thinks I love him. It's almost sad. Marcus felt something inside him die. The office walls seemed to close in. His vision blurred. He read more messages, each one a knife twisting deeper. They had planned it all. Elena had married him not for love, but for patience. David had befriended him not for companionship, but for access. Together, they had been slowly positioning themselves to steal everything he had built. The merger. The deal he had been working on for months. The contract he was supposed to sign tomorrow that would give David 49% ownership of Chin Industries. It was all a trap. The confrontation. Marcus drove home in a daze. The flowers he had bought lay forgotten on the passenger seat, wilting in the evening heat. His mind replayed every moment of the last 10 years, searching for signs he had missed. They were everywhere. Late nights Elena claimed she was at the gym. Weekend trips with girlfriends. David's sudden interest in every detail of the business. How could he have been so blind? The house was dark when he arrived. Elena's car was in the driveway, but the lights were off. Strange. She was always home by this time, preparing dinner, waiting for him. Marcus walked through the front door quietly. He heard voices upstairs. Laughter. His heart pounded as he climbed the stairs, each step feeling like walking toward the end of his world. Their bedroom door was ajar. And there, in the bed they had shared for a decade, were Elena and David, tangled in sheets, celebrating their deception. "Tomorrow everything changes," David was saying. "Once he signs those papers, we'll be set for life." Elena laughed, that beautiful laugh Marcus had fallen in love with. "He's so trusting. So stupid. He never suspected a thing." Marcus pushed the door open. The hinges creaked. Elena screamed. David jumped up, scrambling for his clothes. But Marcus just stood there, frozen, watching his entire life crumble like ash. "Marcus," Elena started, pulling the sheet around herself. "This isn't. Don't." His voice was cold, dead. "Don't insult me further with lies." David stepped forward, hands raised. "Look, man, we can explain." "Explain?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Explain 18 months of betrayal? Explain how you planned to steal everything I built? Explain how my wife and my best friend destroyed me while I trusted you both completely?" Elena's face went pale. You know? Everything." Marcus pulled out his phone, showing them the photographs. "Every lie. Every scheme. Every moment you thought you were winning. The downfall." What happened next became a blur of rage and pain. Words were screamed. Accusations flew. David tried to justify it, claiming Marcus had changed, become obsessed with success, neglected Elena. Elena cried, begged, claimed she had made a mistake, that she still loved him. But Marcus was done listening. He called his lawyer that night. By morning, divorce papers were filed. He called an emergency board meeting and exposed David's scheme. The evidence was overwhelming. David was fired, sued, and criminally investigated for fraud. But the damage was done. The scandal destroyed Chin Industries. Investors pulled out. Partners canceled contracts. The media circus turned Marcus's life into entertainment. His reputation, built over 15 years of hard work, crumbled in weeks. David, facing prison, blamed everything on Marcus. He leaked false information, forged documents, painted Marcus as the villain. Some of it stuck. Enough to create doubt. Elena, in a desperate attempt to save herself, claimed Marcus had been abusive, controlling, that she had been afraid. More lies, but the public ate them up. Sympathy swung to her. She played the victim perfectly. Within 6 months, Marcus lost everything. Chin Industries declared bankruptcy. His assets were frozen in legal battles. Friends abandoned him. Family members, embarrassed by the scandal, distanced themselves. Banks foreclosed on his properties. Marcus found himself alone in a cheap motel room, staring at the ceiling, wondering how his perfect life had become this nightmare. The vow. 1 year after the discovery, Marcus stood on a bridge overlooking the city that had once been his kingdom. Rain poured down, soaking through his worn jacket. He had lost 60 pounds. His once sharp suits were replaced with thrift store clothes. His expensive car traded for bus passes. He had nothing left to lose. Almost nothing. He still had his mind. His determination. And a burning desire that consumed him like fire. Revenge. Elena had taken everything from him. His love, his trust, his business, his reputation, his life. She now lived in luxury, having settled the divorce favorably, having painted herself as the survivor of a terrible marriage. She had even started dating openly, posting photos online, flaunting her freedom. David had cut a deal, serving only 2 years in minimum security prison for his crimes. He would be out soon, ready to rebuild his life. They had destroyed him and walked away smiling. But Marcus was done being the victim. Standing on that bridge, rain mixing with tears on his face, Marcus made a vow. He would rebuild himself. He would become stronger, richer, more powerful than before. And when he was ready, he would return. Not for justice. Justice had failed him. For revenge. He would make them feel every ounce of pain they had inflicted. He would take everything they loved, everything they valued, and crush it in front of them. He would show them what it meant to truly lose. And he would smile while doing it. The disappearance. The next morning, Marcus Chin ceased to exist. He withdrew the last of his cash, abandoned his phone, and left the city without telling anyone. No forwarding address. No goodbye. He simply vanished like smoke. Some people assumed he had killed himself. Others thought he had fled the country in shame. The media ran stories for a week, then forgot about him, moving on to the next scandal. Elena heard about his disappearance and felt a brief moment of guilt, quickly dismissed. David, soon to be released from prison, laughed when he heard, claiming Marcus had always been weak. They thought they had won. They thought it was over. They had no idea that Marcus's story was just beginning. Far away, in a small mountain town, a man with a new name and a new purpose began the long, patient work of transformation. He trained his body. Sharpened his mind. Studied business, psychology, manipulation. He built connections quietly, carefully, using different identities. And most importantly, he planned. Every detail. Every move. Every piece of the puzzle that would bring Elena and David to their knees. It would take years. But Marcus had time. He had patience. And he had nothing else to live for except the beautiful, terrible vision of their destruction. The old Marcus Chen, the trusting fool who had believed in love and loyalty, was dead. What remained was something colder. Harder. Dangerous. And one day, when they had forgotten him completely, when they felt safe and successful and happy, he would return. Not as the broken man they had destroyed, but as the nightmare they had created. Part 2, The Rise from Ruins. 5 years of emptiness. Elena Richardson, she had taken back her maiden name, stood in her penthouse apartment, champagne glass in hand, looking out at the same city view Marcus once enjoyed. She had everything she had dreamed of. Wealth, freedom, respect, independence. So why did it all feel so hollow? She was 40 now, still beautiful, but the mirror showed lines that makeup couldn't quite hide. 5 years since Marcus had disappeared. 5 years since she had won everything. Except she hadn't, had she? The divorce settlement had been generous, but not as much as she had hoped. David had been useless after his release from prison, bitter and broke, blaming her for his problems. Their affair had fizzled quickly once the excitement of secrecy was gone. He had left the city 2 years ago, last she heard working some dead-end job in another state. The victory felt empty. Elena had tried dating, but every relationship felt shallow. Men wanted her for her money or her beauty, nothing deeper. She had tried building her own business, using the settlement money, but discovered she lacked Marcus's vision and determination. The company struggled, barely breaking even. At night, alone in her expensive apartment, she sometimes thought about Marcus. Wondered where he had gone. Whether he was still alive. Part of her, a part she hated, actually missed him. Missed his devotion, his kindness, the way he had looked at her like she was the only person in the world. She pushed the thoughts away. She had made her choice. She had won. This was the life she wanted. Wasn't it? The mysterious investor. Elena's company, Richardson Consulting, was dying. She had poured millions into it, but without proper management and vision, money only delayed the inevitable. She needed a miracle. The miracle arrived in the form of Alexander Cross. He appeared at a business conference Elena attended, desperate for networking opportunities. Tall, confident, impeccably dressed, Alexander commanded attention the moment he entered a room. He spoke with authority about market trends, investment strategies, and business transformation. And he was interested in Richardson Consulting. I see potential where others see problems, Alexander told her over dinner at the city's most exclusive restaurant. His eyes were intense, calculating, but not unkind. Your company has good bones. It just needs the right guidance. Elena felt a flutter in her chest she hadn't experienced in years. Alexander was everything she had pretended Marcus wasn't: sophisticated, worldly, powerful in ways that went beyond mere money. I've researched your background, Alexander continued, his voice smooth as silk. You've had some difficulties. A difficult divorce. Bad publicity. But I don't care about the past. I care about potential. He offered to invest $5 million in her company in exchange for partnership. Not ownership, partnership. He wanted to work with her, build something together. It seemed too good to be true. But Elena, desperate and lonely, chose to believe in the fairy tale one more time. The seduction of power. Over the following months, Alexander transformed Richardson Consulting. He brought in clients, streamlined operations, and increased profits dramatically. More than that, he transformed Elena. He took her to galas and charity events, introducing her to powerful people who had previously ignored her. He encouraged her ambitions, praised her ideas, made her feel valuable in ways she hadn't felt since the early days with Marcus. They became lovers. It happened naturally, inevitably. Alexander was attentive, passionate, everything Marcus had been before business consumed him. Or so Elena told herself. You deserve to be happy, Alexander whispered to her one night, holding her close. You deserve someone who sees your worth. Elena felt herself falling again. Deeper this time. Alexander seemed perfect, successful enough that he didn't need her money, confident enough that he didn't need to control her, mysterious enough to stay interesting. She introduced him to her friends, what few remained. They were impressed. Jealous even. You've really landed on your feet, one friend told her. After everything with Marcus, you deserve this happiness. Marcus. The name brought a brief shadow across Elena's heart. She wondered, sometimes, if he was alive somewhere, whether he ever thought about her. Alexander seemed to read her mind. You're thinking about your ex-husband, he said one evening. Elena tensed. How did you? You get a certain look, Alexander said gently. Regret, maybe? Or unfinished business? I don't regret anything, Elena said quickly. Too quickly. Alexander smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of course not. The past is past. We can only move forward. But even as he said it, Elena felt something cold in his voice. Something that made her shiver despite the warm room. The web tightens. Things began to go wrong so slowly Elena didn't notice at first. A major client canceled their contract, citing concerns about the company's stability. Rumors started circulating about Richardson Consulting's financial practices. An audit was ordered by the tax authorities. Elena was confused. The company had been doing so well under Alexander's guidance. How were things falling apart now? Don't worry, Alexander assured her. I'll handle everything. Trust me. She wanted to trust him. She needed to trust him. He was all she had. But then her bank called. Several large withdrawals had been made from her personal accounts. Withdrawals she hadn't authorized. There must be a mistake, Elena told the bank manager. The transactions were authorized with your digital signature, Ms. Richardson. See? The approvals came from your business account. Her business account. The one Alexander had access to as her partner. Elena's blood went cold. She confronted Alexander that evening. He was in her apartment, he had moved in 3 months ago, working on his laptop. Alexander, we need to talk about my accounts. He looked up, his expression calm. Of course. What about them? Money is missing. Large amounts. The bank says I authorized it, but I didn't. Alexander closed his laptop slowly. When he looked at her, something in his eyes had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something hard and cold. "You authorized it for company expenses," he said quietly. "Don't you remember? You signed the documents." "I never signed anything like." "Check your email." October 15th. "You approved a series of investments." Elena pulled up her email on her phone, hands shaking. There it was. An email from her to Alexander, approving major expenditures. But she had never sent it. "I didn't write this," she whispered. "Your email. Your signature. Your approval." Alexander stood, walking toward her. "Elena, are you feeling all right? You've been so stressed lately. Perhaps you're forgetting things." "I'm not forgetting anything. Someone is stealing from me." "Who would do that?" Alexander's voice was soft, almost mocking. "Your devoted partner who has made your company successful? That doesn't make sense." Elena stepped back, fear creeping through her. "Who are you?" Alexander smiled then. It was a terrible smile, empty and cold. "Don't you recognize me, Elena?" The truth emerges. The world tilted. Alexander walked to the window, his back to her, hands clasped behind him. The pose was familiar. Achingly familiar. 5 years, he said quietly. 5 years I spent becoming someone new. Someone better. Someone you might actually respect. Elena's legs went weak. No. Yes. He turned around, and now she saw it. Beneath the different hair, the added muscle, the expensive clothes, the confidence, she saw him. "Marcus." "Surprised?" His voice was bitter. "You shouldn't be. You, of all people, know how easy it is to deceive someone who trusts you." "Marcus." Elena couldn't breathe. "You're alive." "Disappointed?" Everyone thought. That I killed myself? That I ran away in shame?" Marcus laughed, but it was a sound without joy. "No, Elena. I did something much worse. I survived. And then I planned." He moved closer, and Elena backed away until she hit the wall. "Everything that's happened in the last 6 months, meeting me, the investment, the success, the romance, all of it was orchestrated. Every moment calculated." "Why?" Elena's voice broke. "Why?" Marcus's eyes blazed. "You destroyed my life. You took everything I was, everything I had built, and you burned it to the ground. You smiled while doing it. You and David ruined me, then walked away to live happily ever after. It wasn't supposed to. Wasn't supposed to what? Hurt? Destroy me completely? What exactly did you think would happen when you betrayed someone who loved you with everything he had?" Tears streamed down Elena's face. "I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Marcus laughed again. "Sorry doesn't rebuild a life, Elena. Sorry doesn't erase the year I spent homeless, eating from dumpsters, sleeping under bridges. Sorry doesn't heal the trauma of watching everything you worked for get stolen by the 2 people you trusted most." He pulled out his phone, showing her screen after screen of documents. "I own 60% of Richardson Consulting now. All those investments I made? I signed them over to shell companies I control. The debt your company now carries? Owed to me. The assets? Mine. The reputation? About to be destroyed by the scandal I've carefully prepared." Elena's knees buckled. She slid down the wall to the floor. "You're bankrupt, Elena. Just like you made me. Every penny you gained from our divorce, every asset you protected, gone. Seized. Spent. And tomorrow, when the news breaks, everyone will know the truth. They'll see the fabricated documents, the false records, the evidence that you've been defrauding investors." "But I didn't. Just like I didn't abuse you? Just like I didn't manipulate David? Truth doesn't matter, does it?" Only the story people believe. Marcus crouched down to her level. Now you'll understand what it feels like to lose everything while the world watches and judges. The trap closes. The next morning, Elena's world exploded. Federal investigators arrived at Richardson Consulting. News crews camped outside her building. Her accounts were frozen. Assets seized. Former clients filed lawsuits. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Financial records showing systematic fraud. Emails detailing illegal schemes. Testimony from witnesses who claimed she had coerced them. All of it manufactured by Marcus over months of patient work. Elena tried to fight back, hiring lawyers, calling in favors. But everyone had abandoned her, just as they had abandoned Marcus years before. Justice wasn't interested in truth, only in evidence. And Marcus had provided plenty of evidence. David called from out of state, having seen the news. "This is Marcus's doing," he said. "It has to be." "He's alive," Elena whispered. "He's been planning this for years." "Then we go to the police." Tell them." "Tell them what?" "That the man we destroyed faked his death and framed me?" "They'll think I'm crazy." Elena stared at the walls of her apartment, soon to be foreclosed. He won. David. Marcus won. She heard David breathe heavily on the other end. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Face it, I guess. There's nothing else I can do." After hanging up, Elena sat in the darkness of her failing empire, thinking about Marcus. About the man she had loved and betrayed. About the monster she had created. She deserved this. Deep down, beneath the fear and shock, she knew she deserved every bit of pain coming her way. But knowing it didn't make it hurt any less. A knock came at her door. Elena answered, expecting police or lawyers. It was Marcus. He stood in the hallway, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. Not triumph. Not satisfaction. Something else. Something broken. "I should feel victorious," he said quietly. "I should be celebrating. But standing here, seeing you like this." He shook his head. "It doesn't feel like I thought it would." "What do you want, Marcus?" "I don't know anymore." He looked lost, suddenly. Young again, like the man she had married. "I spent 5 years focused on this moment. On destroying you the way you destroyed me. But now that it's here." He trailed off. Elena saw it then. The revenge hadn't healed him. It had only made the wound deeper. "We destroyed each other," she whispered. Marcus met her eyes, and for the first time in years, they really saw each other. Not enemies. Not victim and villain. Just two broken people who had loved and hurt each other beyond repair. "Yes," he agreed. "We did." He turned to leave, and Elena knew she should let him go. Should accept her punishment and move on. But she couldn't. "Marcus, wait." He stopped, not turning around. "There's something you need to know. Something I should have told you years ago." Marcus turned slowly, confused by the tone in her voice. Not defensive. Not pleading. Something else. Something that sounded like truth. Part 3, When Revenge Breaks Hearts. The Hidden Truth. Elena sat down on her couch, gesturing for Marcus to sit across from her. He hesitated, suspicious, but curiosity won. He sat, keeping his distance, his body tense. "Whatever you're about to say won't change anything," Marcus said coldly. "Your lies won't work on me anymore." "I know." Elena's voice was quiet, resigned. "But you deserve to know the truth. The real truth, not the version you think you know." "I know enough. You never loved me. You used me for money. You and David planned everything from the start." "No." Elena looked up, and Marcus was shocked to see genuine pain in her eyes. "That's where you're wrong. I did love you, Marcus. I loved you so much it terrified me. Marcus laughed bitterly. Is this supposed to make me feel better? You loved me while you slept with my best friend? I started the affair with David 3 years into our marriage, Elena said, and Marcus flinched at her honesty. But it wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because I loved you too much. That makes no sense. You were everything to me, Marcus. My entire world. And it scared me. You worked so hard, built so much, dreamed so big. I felt myself becoming smaller beside you. Not because you tried to make me small, you never did. But because I couldn't keep up with who you were becoming. Elena's hands trembled as she continued. I was insecure. Jealous of your success. Terrified that one day you'd realize you had outgrown me. That you'd leave me for someone more accomplished, more sophisticated, more worthy of the empire you were building. So your solution was to betray me? I sabotaged us before you could leave me. Elena wiped tears from her face. It was stupid. Cruel. Self-destructive. But in my twisted mind, it made sense. If I ruined us first, I could control the narrative. Tell myself I chose to leave rather than wait to be left. Marcus felt his anger waver, but he pushed it down. And David? David pursued me for months before I gave in. He knew my insecurities. He used them. He made me feel desirable, important, special. Not diminished. Elena laughed bitterly. I was so stupid. I thought I was choosing empowerment. Really, I was just running away from the best thing that ever happened to me. This doesn't excuse what you did. No, it doesn't. Elena agreed. Nothing excuses it. But Marcus, you need to know, the plan to steal your company? That was David's idea. Not mine. Marcus tensed. You're lying. I'm not. Check the messages again. Really check them. You'll see David was the one pushing for the merger, manipulating the timeline, forging documents. I knew about the affair, yes. I participated in the betrayal, yes. But I never wanted to destroy your business. I never wanted you to lose everything. Then why didn't you stop him? Because by the time I realized what David was doing, it was too late. And I was too much of a coward to tell you the truth. I thought maybe after the divorce, you'd rebuild. You were so talented, so driven. I never imagined that I'd lose everything? That my reputation would be destroyed? That I'd end up homeless and suicidal? Yes. Elena sobbed now, no longer trying to hide it. I never wanted that, Marcus. I know you won't believe me, but it's true. When you disappeared, when people said you might be dead, I was devastated. I realized too late what I'd done. What I'd destroyed. Marcus sat in silence, processing her words. Part of him wanted to dismiss them as manipulation. But another part, the part that had once loved this woman, heard the ring of truth. Why tell me this now? He finally asked. Because you deserved to know before. Elena paused, taking a deep breath. Before I tell you about our daughter. The world stopped. The child. Marcus couldn't breathe. What? Her name is Lily. Elena pulled out her phone, showing him pictures of a little girl with dark hair and Marcus's eyes. She's 6 years old. Marcus stared at the photos, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. That's impossible. We never had children. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks before I ended our marriage. Elena's voice shook. I was going to tell you that night. But then you came home early and found David and me together, and everything exploded. You were pregnant during the divorce? Yes. And I was terrified. I didn't know if the baby was yours or David's. The timing was close. So I waited until Lily was born, and then I did a DNA test. Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes. And? She's yours, Marcus. 100% yours. I've kept the test results all these years. Elena pulled a folder from her bag, handing it to him. Here. See for yourself. Marcus's hand shook as he opened the folder. Medical records. DNA test results. Birth certificate listing the father as unknown. Why didn't you tell me? His voice broke. Because I was ashamed. And scared. And by the time I had the courage to reach out, you had disappeared. I looked for you, Marcus. 4 months. But it was like you had died. Where is she? Marcus demanded. Where's my daughter? With my mother. In Portland. I've been protecting her from all this, the scandal, the media attention. She doesn't know about you. Doesn't know about any of this mess. Marcus stood abruptly, pacing. A daughter. He had a daughter. For 6 years, he'd had a child he didn't know about. 6 years of birthdays and first steps and bedtime stories he'd missed. I want to meet her. Marcus. I want to meet my daughter. His voice rose, all the rage and pain of the past 5 years pouring out. You stole that from me too. You kept her secret while I suffered, while I rebuilt myself, while I plotted revenge. You let me spend years thinking I'd lost everything when I still had the most important thing. I know. Elena shouted back. I know I was wrong. I know I'm a terrible person. But I was trying to protect her. From the scandal, from David, from everything. From me? Elena went quiet. You were protecting her from me, Marcus said, the realization hitting him. You thought I was dangerous. I didn't know where you were or what you'd become. The Marcus I knew was kind, gentle, loving. But the man who disappeared? He could have been anyone. Anything. Elena looked at him with frightened eyes. And I was right to be scared, wasn't I? Look at what you've become. Look at what you've done. Marcus stared at his hands, thinking about the elaborate revenge he'd orchestrated. The lives he'd ruined. The person he'd transformed into. She was right. He had become dangerous. The choice. Marcus left Elena's apartment in a daze. He drove aimlessly through the city, past the bridge where he'd once considered ending everything, past the office building where Chin Industries used to stand, past the restaurant where he'd proposed to Elena a lifetime ago. Everything he'd done for the past 5 years, the planning, the scheming, the careful construction of Alexander Cross, the systematic destruction of Elena's life, all of it was supposed to bring him peace. Instead, he felt emptier than ever. And now there was Lily. A daughter he'd never met. A child who didn't know he existed. The thought of her, of missing 6 years of her life, hurt worse than everything Elena and David had done combined. Marcus found himself at a small park, watching children play. He wondered if Lily liked swings or slides. If she had his love of science or Elena's creativity. If she laughed like him or had Elena's smile. His phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Marcus. It was David. Elena told me about Lily. About what you've done to her company. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Yes, we do. Meet me at Miller's coffee shop. 1 hour. If you don't show up, I'm going to the police with everything, the real identity of Alexander Cross, the fabricated evidence, all of it. You have no proof. I have enough to create doubt. Enough to make the investigation shift to you. Is that really what you want? To be exposed and possibly arrested just when you've learned you have a daughter? Marcus hung up, but he knew David was right. He'd been so careful, but determined investigation might uncover his trail. And if he was arrested now, he might never get a chance to meet Lily. He drove to the coffee shop. The sacrifice. David looked older, harder. Prison and the years after had not been kind to him. He sat in a corner booth, watching Marcus approach with guarded eyes. So the ghost returns, David said. Marcus slid into the seat across from him. Say what you need to say. I'm not going to apologize. We both know I can't undo what I did. David's voice was flat. But I want you to know I've paid for it. Lost everything, just like you did. My reputation, my career, my freedom. I've been living in a one-room apartment, working retail, barely surviving. Am I supposed to feel sympathy? No. But maybe you can understand that we're not so different now. We've both lost. We've both suffered. And we've both hurt Elena. Elena hurt me first. Yes, she did. And she was wrong. We were both wrong. David leaned forward. But Marcus, that little girl? Lily? She's innocent in all this. She didn't betray you. She doesn't deserve to have her mother destroyed. Elena deserves everything coming to her. Maybe. But does Lily deserve to grow up with her mother in prison? To lose the only parent she's ever known? To learn that her father destroyed her mother before she even got a chance to know him? The words hit Marcus like physical blows. What do you want, David? Stop this. Pull back the evidence. Somehow find a way to make the investigation go away. Let Elena keep enough to survive, to take care of Lily. And why would I do that? Because you're not the monster you've tried to become. David's voice softened. I knew you for 15 years, Marcus. You were the kindest, most decent person I ever met. That's why betraying you ate at me every day. That's why I deserved prison. But I don't believe that person is completely gone. I think he's still in there, buried under 5 years of pain and revenge. Marcus sat in silence, David's words echoing in his mind. If you go through with this, you'll destroy Elena, David continued. And in doing so, you'll hurt Lily. She'll grow up knowing her father cared more about revenge than about her well-being. Is that the legacy you want? I don't know what I want anymore. Then let me tell you what I think you want. David pulled out his phone, showing Marcus a video. Elena sent me this yesterday. The video showed Lily at a playground, laughing as she went down a slide. Her joy was pure, uncomplicated, beautiful. She had Marcus's eyes. That's your daughter, David said quietly. That's the person who matters most in this whole mess. Not Elena. Not me. Not your revenge. Her. Marcus watched the video loop, his heart breaking and healing simultaneously. What happened to us? He whispered. How did we become these people? We made choices. Bad ones. And we hurt each other beyond repair. David closed his phone. But we can still make one good choice. We can still protect that little girl from our mistakes. The healing. Marcus spent the next 3 days systematically undoing his revenge. It wasn't easy. Some things couldn't be reversed. But he used his connections, his resources, and his carefully constructed identity to shift the investigation. Evidence disappeared. Witnesses recanted. The case against Elena fell apart due to insufficient evidence and procedural errors. Elena's company was still damaged, but not destroyed. Marcus anonymously transferred enough money to stabilize it, then withdrew his partnership, disappearing Alexander Cross as completely as he'd created him. David kept his word, saying nothing about Marcus's identity or methods. When it was done, Marcus stood outside Elena's mother's house in Portland, working up the courage to knock. Inside was his daughter. The child he'd never met. The only pure thing to come out of the disaster of his marriage. Elena answered the door. They'd agreed she would introduce them slowly, carefully, not as father and daughter yet, but as an old friend of Mommy's. She's in the living room, Elena said quietly. Marcus, thank you. For stopping. For choosing her. I should have chosen her from the start. We both should have made better choices. Marcus walked inside, and there she was. Lily. Drawing with crayons at the coffee table, her tongue stuck out in concentration just like Marcus used to do. She looked up when he entered, and smiled, a smile that reminded him of Elena before everything went wrong. "Hi," Lily said shyly. "Are you Mommy's friend?" Marcus knelt down to her level, his throat tight. "Yes. My name is Marcus. I'm Lily. Do you want to color with me?" And just like that, simply, innocently, she offered him a crayon. Marcus took it with trembling hands. "I'd love to." The new beginning. 3 years later, Marcus sat in a different park, watching Lily on the monkey bars. She was 9 now, confident, brilliant, loved. She knew the truth about him being her father. They'd told her when she turned 7, gently, carefully. She'd adjusted better than either adult expected. Kids were resilient that way. Elena sat beside him on the bench. They weren't together, could never be together again. Too much damage. Too many scars. But they'd learned to co-parent, to communicate, to put Lily first. "She's doing well in school," Elena said. "Teacher says she's gifted in math." "Gets that from me," Marcus said with a small smile. "And her creativity from me." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their daughter play. It wasn't the ending Marcus had imagined during those dark years of revenge. It wasn't the happy reunion stories promised. It was complicated, messy, imperfect. But it was real. David had moved to another city, finally finding steady work and starting the long process of rebuilding his life. He sent Christmas cards every year, always addressed to Lily, never asking for forgiveness, just trying to be better. Marcus had rebuilt his business, not Chin Industries, but something smaller, more meaningful. He made enough to provide for Lily and to find satisfaction in work that didn't consume him. Elena ran a nonprofit now, helping single mothers. The work was hard and paid little, but she said it gave her purpose, a way to atone. None of them were the people they'd been 10 years ago. They'd all been broken, all made terrible choices, all hurt each other in ways that could never be fully repaired. But they'd survived. And more importantly, they'd learned. "Daddy, watch." Lily called from the monkey bars. Marcus looked up, his heart still catching every time she called him that. "I'm watching." She swung from bar to bar, graceful and brave, completely unaware of the complicated history that had led to this moment. And maybe that was okay. Maybe she didn't need to know all the darkness. Maybe she could just be a child, loved by imperfect parents who were trying their best. "I'm proud of you," Elena said quietly. Marcus looked at her, surprised. For stopping. For choosing her over revenge. For becoming the father she deserves. "I'm not perfect at it." "No one is. But you try. That's what matters." Lily finished her circuit and ran over, breathless and grinning. "Did you see? Did you see? You were amazing," Marcus said, pulling her into a hug. "Can we get ice cream?" Marcus looked at Elena, who shrugged with a smile. "Why not?" As they walked toward the ice cream shop, Lily between them holding both their hands, Marcus thought about how different this was from what he'd planned. He'd wanted vengeance, destruction, vindication. Instead, he'd gotten something infinitely more valuable. He'd gotten a second chance. Not to fix what had been broken, that was impossible. Not to pretend the past hadn't happened, the scars were too deep. But to build something new from the ashes. To be better than he'd been. To love the one person who mattered most. His daughter. The betrayal had burned everything. The revenge had nearly destroyed what remained. But in the end, love had saved them all. Not the passionate, reckless love of youth. Not the perfect, fairy tale love of stories. But the hard, honest, imperfect love of people who had failed each other and chose to keep trying anyway. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. The end. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story of love, betrayal, and redemption, please like and subscribe to Heart's Reckoning for more emotional journeys. What would you have done in Marcus's position? Let us know in the comments below.